Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to the Soterion Technical Series, where we break down SAP Security and Authorization Administration into short, practical how-to videos. Each episode focuses on an SAP tool, function, or concept, helping you understand what it does, when to use it, and how to apply it in practice. In this episode, we'll be covering how to convert an authorization field into an organizational value, to help you with standardized maintenance of authorization fields within your SAP role design. All right. With that said, let's just get into a quick breakdown of authorization fields and organizational levels, starting where they apply to us most. So in our role generator or role maintenance transaction, PFCG, we've got a test role here to just use for today's episode, and that's a goods movement role. The role holds transaction MIGO or MIGO, for those who refer to it as such, and we're going to outline a bit of a business case as to why one might want to convert an authorization field to a organizational value, and then get into the tools that we use to do that and how to make use of the SAP provided function to help us accomplish this. So an authorization field could be anything that sits within an authorization object, or it is the sort of level deeper within your auth objects. So we have an authorization object over here. So that is reservations movement type, or M_MRES_BWA. Your authorization fields would be activity or ACTVT and movement type, or BWART. So everything is, I guess, an authorization field, but not everything is an organizational value or an organizational level. So what an organizational level is typically points on your enterprise structure, whether that's a shipping point, a plant, a company code, etc. Those are predetermined or predefined SAP standard organizational levels. And what that allows us to do is come to a centralized point in our role, maintain a value in our org levels, and then when we search for our field for plant, in all instances where that field appears, we are going to see the same value that we've populated from the single data entry point over here. So if I were to change that back to a asterisk, we're going to see that apply to all of our plant fields within the role. All right, so that's all good and well. Why is this useful? Is especially, so number one, of course, central maintenance for a field that may appear across multiple authorization objects within the role, but also in a parent and derived role design. Whenever you are maintaining a parent role and you push changes down, all changes made to authorization fields or standard authorization fields will overwrite your authorization field values maintained in your child roles or derived roles, whereas organizational level values or organizational level fields are independent of that. They are specific to the value set in the child role itself. So especially in a business case where we have a parent and derived role design, we want to derive a bunch of child roles from a single parent role, and we have an authorization field that we want to keep as separate values between those child roles. We'll want to convert that authorization field into a org level so that we can maintain it as such within our SAP roles. For today's example, I'm going to use our movement type field, or BWART, as the auth field we're going to convert into a organizational level. We'll see that this field occurs across, this field occurs across multiple authorization instances and authorization objects. We may have a business case where we want to set certain movement types in some child roles and certain movement types in other child roles, for example, to allow for the processing of different types of goods movements in the organization. And we'll take that as our business case for this example. But of course, this logic can be applied to any other field or most of the other fields in your roles that you see here. apart from start authorizations like S_T code, S_service, etc. for the starting of applications. And then things like your ACTBT fields cannot be made into org levels. There's a small list of exceptions that you can find on the SAP Help portal. All right, the transaction that we use to maintain our organizational levels, transaction SUPO. So that is the SAP standard transaction that contains all of our SAP standard organizational level fields, those that have been provided by SAP, but also the location that we're going to use to create our new field. Right, we can see here that our field for movement type BWART does not appear in the list here. So I'm going to go into change mode. I'm going to create an organizational level. I'm going to specify the field name being movement type, and I am going to save. Right. Once I've saved that, we'll see a new entry in our table here for movement type. The field is recognized and accepted by SAP. We then see statuses of how the org level is maintained across three main areas of where these org levels apply. So first and foremost is the SAP Standard Authorization Default Table found in transaction SU22, otherwise known as table USOBT. Then we have the customizing layer or the customer specified defaults or authorization defaults found in transaction SU24 or table USOBT_C. And then we have the org level status within our role design itself. So how is that? Now that we've created this as an org level, we saw where it was previously just an authorization field. We, of course, once we create a new org level, need to do some comparisons between these data sources to make sure that those sources recognize this field now as a org level and the values kind of reflect as such. Right. So first things first is in our we're going to move we would typically move from left to right. So there is a function to compare the org level in the SAP standard tables, but of course, because this is a customer specific org level, we don't need to maintain it there. We only need to start by maintaining it in our customer specific authorization defaults in SU24. So by double clicking on our line item here, it's going to open up all the instances or all the applications where there is a authorization default that contains the auth field BWART movement type. All I need to do, or all I'm wanting to do here, is basically select all these instances, some 579 instances, and compare them or compare the org level to the SU24 data to make sure that it reflects as an org level when we go into SU24 for these applications, for any of these applications. All right, so that's all completed successfully. I'm happy with that. I'll go back to my initial screen, and we'll see that everything is happy. It's all fully maintained in SU24 data. I now want to do the same in my roles. So my SAP roles, I'll get a list of them here. Right. I now want to compare my org level with my role content to make sure that within PFCG, when we're entering a role, that it recognizes the field as an org level and allows us to now centrally maintain those values for that field in the org level screen that we saw earlier. Right. Shouldn't take too long to take us through the comparison process. Right, everything is completed successfully. There were some 353 roles that were adjusted as a result of that. Okay, we do then get some status levels here that the org level data has been fully maintained. It is compared with the role itself. However, the actual organizational level values within the role have not been maintained in quite a few roles. So you can take it from there, go to role maintenance and start maintaining your roles. But in our case, what I am going to do is reopen PFCG. I'm going to go into my goods movement role. Right. I'm going to open up my role content, and I'm going to see now that we've moved from a yellow triangle, which indicates an empty authorization field, to a red circle, which means an empty organizational level. So confirming here that our org levels have been converted, or our field has been converted into an org level. We'll now see movement type appearing within the role. I'm going to specify goods movement 101 for goods receipt to purchase order. And now we see that it's maintained across all our instances here. And then save and generate my role. Move back. Let's just go to the home screen for now. That's essentially it, how to set up a auth field as an org level in SAP. Once we're done with that, we might now want to remove an org level for whatever reason at a stage, right? So I am going to basically try, and there is the option, of course, available to delete an organizational level. But if I try and delete that, it's going to give me an error message that the organizational level must first be removed from the sources where it is found. So first and foremost being our org level in our roles. So instead of moving left to right, I'm now going to move right to left. When we're in removal stage, I'm going to decouple or disconnect our org level from all of the roles that it appears in. Once that is done, I'm going to do the same for the SE24 or the authorization defaults. And once that is cleared up, I should then be able to delete the organizational level and return it back to a authorization field. Okay, SAP is happy. Everything looks good. We'll see the org level status is now reset in our roles. All right, I still cannot delete the org level. So what I need to do is go into my SE24 authorization defaults, select all my values, use the option there. That was nice and quick. It's all done. Coming back here, you can see now that everything has been disconnected from SE24. I now should be able to delete my organizational level. All right. That is basically it when it comes to setting up a authorization field as an org level in our roles. Just to finish that off, what I want to show you is the result of this. So going to TFCG, opening up my role again, just as a final sort of take note of this, or a little kind of extra piece of information for administrators out there, is that once we've decoupled or gotten rid of an organizational level, we will note that all of the previously standard, or what would have been standard fields, because we maintained it through the org level function, now that they've reverted back to authorization fields, SAP is going to keep whatever was maintained in that org level field value when it was an org level, and just overwrite the standard instance with a maintained field value. So if I want to get rid of that and just have a fully standard role, I'm just going to need to delete that value and go through applying the change through SE24 to get an authorization standard default to pull in here, if that's what my role principles dictate. All right. And with that said, thank you very much for all your time in today's session. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. And just keep in mind that there are a number of technical series episodes that assist with all types of SAP security and authorization administration functions. Feel free to check them out on the Soterion YouTube channel. Thank you, and we'll catch up in the next one.